She announced, "You're not in my league financially, not husband material." In front of her entire party, I replied, "You're right," texted one message, and finished my drink. Minutes later, when the helicopter touched down, I'm Atlas, 28, and I've been running a tech company in Austin for the past 4 years. Nothing flashy, just enterprise software solutions that somehow turned into a $50 million business. We help companies manage their data infrastructure. Not exactly cocktail party conversation, but it pays the bills, and then some. The thing is, I learned early that money changes how people see you, usually not in ways that help you figure out who they really are. I dated a few women in my early 20s who suddenly became way more interested once they learned about my financial situation. It left me wondering whether they wanted me or my bank account. So when I met Juniper 14 months ago, I decided to try a different approach, keep the wealth quiet, see what kind of person she was when she thought I was just another software guy making decent money, but nothing spectacular. I met her at Radio Coffee on South Lamar. She was there every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. Books spread across this corner table, studying for her business degree finals at UT. I'd been going there for months, working on my laptop, and we'd made eye contact a few times, finally worked up the nerve to ask if she needed a coffee refill. She was gorgeous, obviously, but also sharp as hell. We talked for 3 hours that first afternoon about everything from Austin's growth problems to her family's history in the city. Her great-grandfather had been some cattle baron back in the day, and her family still had serious money. Old Austin money, the kind that comes with social expectations and country club memberships. From day one, I could tell she was trying to figure out my financial situation, not in a gold digger way exactly, but like someone who'd grown up around wealth and was accustomed to categorizing people by their economic status. When I picked her up for our first real date in my Toyota Camry, I saw her glance at it with this subtle expression I couldn't quite read. "Nice car," she said, but the tone suggested she was being polite. I'd deliberately chosen the Camry over the BMW sitting in my garage at home. Wanted to see how she'd react to dating someone who appeared to be solidly middle class rather than wealthy. Over the next few months, I got a masterclass in how people from old money families view economic differences. Never mean about it, never directly insulting, but there were constant little comments and suggestions that revealed her mindset. "There's this amazing restaurant in Westlake, but it's probably pretty expensive," she'd say when suggesting dinner plans. "My dad might be able to introduce you to some people in tech who could help with your career," she'd offer. Assuming I needed networking assistance, "I love that you're so practical about money," she said once after I suggested we split an expensive dinner bill. Most guys try to impress me by spending way more than they can afford. Her family was polite but distant when I met them. Her parents, Victoria and Hamilton, treated me like a pleasant enough young man who was clearly temporary. They'd ask basic questions about my work, nod politely when I explained what my company did, then change the subject to topics they found more interesting. Her uncle Sterling was the worst. Investment banker, probably early 50s, the kind of guy who wore his success like a uniform. He had this way of talking down to me that was subtle enough to avoid being obviously rude, but clear enough that I always left family gatherings feeling like I'd been evaluated and found lacking. "Software, huh?" he'd said during our first meeting. "Competitive field. Hope you're saving money for when the market shifts." "Austin's tech scene is pretty volatile," he'd add. "Smart to keep your expectations realistic." I'd never told him what my company was worth or what my personal financial situation looked like. In his mind, I was some startup employee dating above my station, and he enjoyed reminding me of that dynamic. The weird thing was, I started to internalize some of it, not because I believed I wasn't successful, but because constantly being treated like I was less than eventually affects how you see yourself in that environment. I'd find myself feeling defensive about my choices, my lifestyle, my apparent lack of ambition to live more extravagantly. Juniper never said anything directly critical, but there were patterns. She'd suggest restaurants, and then quickly backtrack when she remembered I might not want to spend that much. She'd talk about vacation ideas, and then pivot to more realistic options when she caught herself. She'd mention something she wanted to buy, and then joke about how she'd have to wait until she found a rich husband. All of it was said with affection, like she was being considerate of my financial limitations. But it built this dynamic where she was the financially secure one doing me a favor by dating down. And I was the guy who should be grateful for her flexibility about my economic status. Her graduation party was last month. She'd been talking about it for weeks. Big celebration at Westwood Country Club, family tradition, all her relatives and family friends invited. She was proud of finishing her business degree, and her parents were throwing this elaborate party to celebrate. It's going to be pretty fancy, she warned me a few days before. Like really fancy. My family goes all out for these things. I told her that sounded great, that I was looking forward to celebrating with her. What I didn't tell her was that I'd been to Westwood Country Club plenty of times for business events. My company had sponsored their charity golf tournament for the past 2 years. The night of the party, I showed up in my usual khakis and buttoned down. Nice enough for most occasions, but definitely underdressed compared to everyone else there. Men in suits that probably cost more than most people's rent. Women in dresses that screamed designer labels. Juniper looked incredible, obviously. Black dress that probably cost more than my car payment. Hair and makeup professionally done. She introduced me around to her relatives, and I could see them sizing me up, trying to place me in their social hierarchy. This is Atlas, she'd say. He works in software. Not he runs a company or he's an entrepreneur. Just he works in software, like I was someone's employee rather than someone's boss. The party was everything you'd expect from old money Austin families. Catered dinner with multiple courses. Open bar with top shelf everything. Live music from some local jazz quartet. Probably cost more than most people make in a year. I spent the first hour making small talk with her relatives, most of whom seemed pleasant enough, but clearly weren't particularly interested in getting to know me. The conversations were polite, but surface level. The kind of interaction you have with someone you expect to never see again. Sterling held court near the bar, telling stories about his latest investment successes to anyone who'd listen. When he spotted me, he waved me over with this patronizing smile. Atlas, good to see you again. How's the software business treating you? Can't complain, I said. Staying busy. That's the spirit. Keep grinding. Maybe you'll work your way up to management eventually. A few of his friends chuckled at that. Like the idea of me advancing beyond my current station was mildly amusing. Economy's tough for young people these days, Sterling continued. Important to have realistic expectations about what kind of lifestyle you can afford. I nodded politely, but something about the way he said it felt different than usual. More pointed, more public, like he was establishing something for the benefit of the group. That's when things started to shift. Juniper had been drinking steadily throughout the evening, getting more animated and confident as the night went on. Around 10 o'clock, I was standing near the bar talking to one of her cousins about Austin's startup scene when she approached us. Atlas, she said, her voice carrying in a way that made nearby conversations pause. I think we need to talk. The tone was wrong, public breakup wrong. I could feel people starting to pay attention. I've been thinking about us, about our future, and I just don't think this is working anymore. More conversations were stopping now. Her family members were turning to watch what was happening. We're in different places financially. We have different goals, different expectations about life. She was louder now, either from the alcohol or from wanting an audience for whatever point she was trying to make. I need to be with someone who can match my ambition, who can provide the kind of life I want to build. The humiliation was intentional. She wasn't just breaking up with me. She was doing it publicly, in front of her entire family, making sure everyone understood that I wasn't good enough for her standards. Good luck affording dinner without my dad's help, she added, which got a few uncomfortable laughs from her cousins. The cruelty of that comment hit me like a truck. Not just the words, but the fact that she'd said them in front of people, like my financial limitations were entertainment for her family. That's when Sterling walked over, clearly enjoying the show. Don't take it too hard, son, he said with this patronizing smile that I'd grown to hate over the past year. Juniper's got standards to maintain. Family expectations, you understand. He was playing to the crowd now, and they were eating it up. I'm sure you'll find someone more suitable to your situation, he continued. Maybe in a few years, when you've gotten your career more established, you can try dating in this league again. The whole circle of family members was watching this humiliation like it was dinner theater. Besides, Sterling added, his voice carrying across the room now. You'll probably be begging to be let back in once you realize what you're losing. That's when something clicked for me. Not anger exactly, but this crystal clear moment of understanding. These people had spent 14 months evaluating me, finding me lacking, and now they were publicly celebrating my inadequacy. I pulled out my phone and made one call. Kai. Yeah, I need pickup from Westwood Country Club, 30 minutes. I put the phone away and looked at Sterling, then at Juniper, then at the circle of family members who were still watching this unfold like entertainment. I appreciate the advice about knowing my league, I said calmly. Then I walked to the bar, ordered a whiskey, and waited. The next 28 minutes were the longest of the evening. I could feel people watching me, probably wondering what I was doing, why I wasn't leaving an embarrassment like they expected. Juniper tried to approach me a couple times, but I wasn't interested in extending the conversation. Then you could hear it before you could see it. The distinctive sound of helicopter rotors, getting louder as it approached the country club. Conversations started to die down as people tried to figure out what was happening. The helicopter landed in the field adjacent to the country club, rotors still spinning. Corporate helicopter, sleek as hell, with Reeves Dynamics printed in large letters on both sides. My company logo, visible to everyone at the party, the entire event had gone silent. Everyone was staring out the windows, trying to process what they were seeing. I finished my whiskey, left a 20 on the bar, and started walking toward the exit. Atlas, Juniper called behind me, but I didn't turn around. Wait, she called again, but the helicopter noise was getting louder as I approached it. As I climbed into the passenger seat, I could see the entire party clustered at the windows of the country club, phones out, probably Googling Reeves Dynamics, and realizing that the guy they just spent an hour humiliating was worth more money than most of their trust funds combined. Sometimes the best response to being told you don't belong somewhere is proving that you never needed to be there in the first place. Update 1. Kai texted me the next morning with updates from his girlfriend who works events at the country club. Apparently the party turned into complete chaos after I left. The first thing that happened was everyone started Googling my company. Reeves Dynamics isn't exactly a household name outside tech circles, but we're pretty well established in enterprise software. When the party guests started finding articles about our recent Series C funding round and my profile in Austin Business Journal's 40 under 40 list, the energy in the room completely shifted. Juniper lost it, completely lost it, tried to chase down the helicopter in heels, screaming for me to wait. When that didn't work, she spent the next hour crying in the country club bathroom while her mom and cousins tried to calm her down. Victoria was apparently horrified, realizing they just publicly humiliated a multi-millionaire at their own family celebration. Hamilton immediately started researching my company on his phone, probably calculating exactly how much money they'd just insulted. But Sterling's reaction was the best part. He'd been holding court all evening, introducing himself to people as the uncle who put that gold digger in his place. Problem was, several of the guests were Austin business people who recognized my company name and knew exactly who I was and what I was worth. By the end of the evening, word was spreading through the party that Sterling Blackwell had just publicly humiliated one of Austin's more successful young entrepreneurs. Not a great look for someone whose career depends on networking and business relationships. The real kicker was social media. Someone had filmed the helicopter pickup, and it went viral locally within hours. #helicopter breakup started trending in Austin. The video shows me walking calmly toward this corporate helicopter while Juniper screams my name in the background, and her family stands around looking completely stunned. The video got picked up by some local news stations as a feel-good story about comebacks and not judging people by appearances. Within a week, it had over 1 million views and was being shared in business forums as an example of quiet confidence versus loud arrogance. My phone was exploding all weekend. Juniper calling, texting, leaving voicemails that went from confused to apologetic to desperate pretty quickly. I didn't know was the theme of most of them. You should have told me this changes everything, we can work this out. But that's exactly the point she was missing. She didn't know, and her behavior when she thought I had nothing revealed everything I needed to know about her character. The money didn't change who I was, it just changed how she saw me. Sterling tried calling too, something about wanting to clear the air and discuss potential business opportunities. Amazing how quickly someone's tone changes when they realize they've just insulted someone with actual assets. The best text came from her mom, Atlas. "I hope you can forgive our family's behavior. We'd love to have you for dinner this week to properly welcome you to our circle." Welcome me to their circle. After 14 months of treating me like a charity case, I spent the weekend at my actual place. The penthouse downtown that I'd never brought Juniper to, just processing how differently they were all treating me now that they knew the truth. Not because I'd changed at all, but because their perception of my value had shifted completely. That told me everything I needed to know about what our relationship had actually meant to them. Update 2. It's been 6 weeks since the graduation party, and Juniper has launched what can only be described as a full-scale campaign to get me back. The desperation is honestly hard to watch. She started by showing up at my office building, waiting in the lobby with coffee and apologies. My assistant had to call security twice before I told them to just not let her upstairs anymore. She's tried everything from tearful apologies to angry confrontations about how I lied by omission about my wealth. "You made me look like a fool," she said during one particularly dramatic lobby visit that half my employees witnessed. "How was I supposed to know you were actually successful? You drove a Toyota." That's the part she still doesn't understand. I wasn't hiding my success to trick her. I was living modestly to reveal her true values. The fact that she feels foolish says everything about why she was with me in the first place. Her family has doubled down on reconciliation efforts. Hamilton has called 4 times wanting to discuss investment opportunities with my company. Victoria sent flowers to my office with a note about family misunderstandings and how much they'd always admired my work ethic. Sterling tried to set up a lunch meeting to talk about mutual business interests, as if we'd always been peers instead of him spending a year talking down to me like I was his daughter's charity project. The social pressure campaign is the worst part. She's been reaching out to every mutual friend we have, explaining how much she loves me and how this is all a big misunderstanding. Half of them think I should give her another chance because people make mistakes when they're drinking. The other half think I'm completely justified in walking away. She's posted old photos of us on Instagram with captions about working through challenges and love being stronger than pride. It's like she's trying to rewrite history. Pretending the breakup was about communication issues rather than her publicly humiliating me for not being wealthy enough for her standards. The most telling thing happened 3 weeks ago. I was having dinner at Uche downtown when I spotted her across the restaurant with some guy who was clearly trying to impress her. Expensive watch, talking loudly about his investment portfolio, name-dropping local business owners. She looked bored out of her mind. When she saw me, she excused herself and came over to my table. "That guy's a complete loser," she said, like we were still together. "All he talks about is money and status. I miss being with someone real, someone with actual substance, someone real," after she dumped me for not having enough money. "You taught me what actually matters," she continued. "Success isn't about showing off. It's about character. That's why I fell in love with you." But here's what she still didn't get. She'd fallen in love with a version of me that she'd constructed in her mind. The humble, hard-working guy who needed her family's help to advance his career. She'd never actually known the real me, because the real me had been testing her character the entire time we were together. I've been clear with everyone that this isn't about pride or hurt feelings. It's about what I learned about her when she thought I couldn't offer her anything valuable. That information doesn't become irrelevant just because she's sorry now. Final update: Juniper's social life in Austin basically collapsed. The video made her locally famous for all the wrong reasons. Everyone knows the story now. How she publicly dumped a millionaire for not being wealthy enough, not realizing who she was actually talking to. It's become this cautionary tale people share about assumptions and gold-digging behavior. Dating has been brutal for her from what I hear through mutual friends. Wealthy guys won't touch her because they saw the video and know exactly what she wanted to do. Other guys know they'll always be compared to the millionaire she lost and don't want to deal with that psychological baggage. Her family's reputation took a significant hit too. Sterling lost several business relationships when word spread about his behavior at the party. Hard to trust the judgment of someone who publicly humiliates successful entrepreneurs at social gatherings. Victoria and Hamilton have gone into full damage control mode, trying to rebuild relationships that were damaged by their daughter's very public mistake. Professionally, Juniper's been struggling. 3 job opportunities fell through when employers Googled her name and found articles about the incident. Austin's business community is smaller than people think, and this story has become part of local business folklore. Meanwhile, my company went public 4 months ago. We're now valued at just over $200 million, and I ended up on Forbes' 30 under 30 list for enterprise software innovation. The success feels completely earned because I built it without using wealth as a social crutch. I'm seeing someone incredible now. Rebecca's a successful attorney who built her own practice from scratch. She knew about my company before she knew about me personally, which was refreshing. When I told her about the Juniper situation, her response was simple. Thank God you found out who she was before you married her. The difference is incredible. Rebecca doesn't need my money, doesn't want my money, just wants to build something together as equals. She gets excited about my business successes the same way I get excited about her winning big cases. That's what actual partnership looks like. Last month, I spoke at Austin's Startup Week about building sustainable company culture. Juniper was in the audience. Her current job apparently required her to attend networking events when she tried to approach me afterward. Security politely redirected her, not because I was angry, but because there was simply nothing left to discuss. The whole experience taught me something valuable about testing people's character before you get too invested. I'd always known that money changed how people treated you. But I'd never deliberately used that knowledge to evaluate someone's true nature. Juniper thought she was dating down when she was with me. She thought she could do better than someone who drove a modest car and lived simply. The helicopter didn't prove that I was worthy of her. It proved that she was never worthy of me. I'm grateful for all of it now. The condescension, the public humiliation. Even Sterling's smug comments about knowing my league. They showed me exactly who these people were when they thought I couldn't do anything about it.